What is up, Watch fam? Happy Friday, and welcome to this week's episode of Liquor Run. I am Christian from Theo and Harris, and it's my old man,
Rolly.
And today we're going to be drinking a beautiful bottle of Spanish cava, right? And talking about
continuation,
a little continuation from last week's episode, and talking about some incredible vintage watches, mostly Omega.
Yep.
So let's do it. And
do it. Come on and do it. Shake it, boom, boom.
What's that from?
Shake it, bang, bang.
Ready?
It's one of those disco songs.
Come on and do it. Come on and do it. Come on and do it.
Shake it, boom, boom.
All right, before we jump into it, quick wristwatch check. What do you got on there?
The Radio Mirror Panerai.
How you feel?
I love it. I've been worn it in over a month.
I know we were away, and you only
were
brought
away.
your date,
Right.
your GMT. So
bring one.
Yeah, you got to bring one watch on vacation. I am wearing a Rolex Day-Date, a watch that is not quite as sporty as your Panerai, but pretty
Lovely
cool
watch, though.
Right? Pretty
Beautiful
cool.
watch. We talked last week about Spanish cava, which we're having cava again today.
Yep.
But
Well, we did a visit to a beautiful vineyard in northeastern Spain.
that's right, Castelroy, Sabate Coca.
It was a wonderful experience.
Do you remember the cava? Having cava on top of a
barrel?
wine barrel, some Catalan fouet sausage,
Yep.
almonds,
Yep.
olives,
Yep.
chips.
Yeah, at like 11:30.
And for anyone that may say, oh, you're having sparkling wine in a wine glass, this is what they served us.
They did, yeah. They didn't have anything fancy. It was just regular.
It's not a
yeah.
champagne flute. It
Yeah.
is a wine glass that they serve cava in.
Yeah.
It's a daily drink.
Yeah, beautiful experience.
Yeah, beautiful.
We really dove into the whole thing last week. Talked about the family and the whole production, and it was awesome. So let's continue drinking it, and let's talk about
Salud.
Salud.
Santé. I know
Santé.
somebody got upset.
I
I
know,
didn't say
someone
santé.
did.
Santé.
Santé. Okay, so for today's conversation, I wanted to bring you some watches that we have listed in the shop that I find particularly interesting, right? One, the first is Universal Genève, and I chose that because I thought that you specifically would really enjoy it. From the case and the dial, lume plots, the whole bit, I think it's up your alley. The last three I chose here are Seamasters by Omega. A model line within a brand, right, that I find incredibly charming and dynamic and multifaceted, and I think that these three watches demonstrate just how, different Omega did things over the course of 20 or so years, right? They're all in the same model line,
Yes.
but very different executions. So let's do it. I want to ask you a question. Which one jumps out to you, first? That's number one.
Right here.
The Universal Genève.
Love it.
Try it on.
I had not seen this watch before.
Yeah, this is really cool. Gerald
it.
Genta designed the pole router. I think he was 23 years old, right before he went to go work for Adam RPA, and before he was contracted by Patek Philippe, and all that stuff. He was the Universal Genève pole router designer. This was not his design. This particular.
Oh, I love this.
This particular example was a later evolution of his pole router design. This is from the 70s. It still has that famous microtor movement, but a day-date function, which is pretty cool.
That's beautiful.
Right? How do you
Yeah.
feel about the cushion case? People are a little bit put off by cushion cases.
I'm
sometimes.
not. I like it. It gives it a little bit of bulk, a little heft to it.
It has
So
an-
it's a
yeah.
smaller size watch, but that height makes it feel a little bit. I think it's beautiful.
It has an unusually large presence for a
It
vintage
does.
watch.
It does. Yeah. It's
Definitely.
well said.
Yeah, because the lugs are just wider. It's almost like a
Yes.
UFO.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
I like it a lot.
Good call.
Yeah, this is a really cool one too. We've got the terminology here is kind of debated. Some people call it ribbon, some people call it tapestry, but it's a vintage Omega Seamaster.
Wow.
It's a really beautiful watch.
All right. So if you're into Omega, then this is definitely a watch that would grab your attention.
Right. Well, that dial alone.
The dial alone
it's almost
is
like
great.
even if you're not into watches.
But I got to
that
tell
dial
you
will
that I
grab
saw
you.
the picture of this watch maybe on Instagram.
Yeah.
And yet when you see it here up close, that ribbon is very subtle.
It's subtle.
It doesn't look as ribbed as it.
You know when it really jumps out when it's on it's on an
Oh
edge?
yeah, there you go.
That's when it jumps out.
Oh, bingo. Yeah.
But,
Oh, that is sweet.
But
yeah.
but straight on it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yeah.
That's the kind of watch you really need to hold to understand.
Yeah. Oh
as
yeah.
far as,
Look at that. Yeah. You see, just looks ivory straight on.
Yeah. Isn't it pretty?
That's a really nice watch.
What I think is so cool about Omega, to step back and talk about brands for a second, is, Omega was not, the Rolex. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was definitely on the status,
Yes.
a step down, right? But the stuff that, and I source this stuff on a daily basis, the stuff that Omega was manufacturing and designing was way more experimental than Rolex, and it was in many ways way more interesting than Rolex, right? To get into, interesting Rolex details, you needed to spend a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas with Omega, for fractions of the price then and still till today, you're getting really cool stuff.
Oh yeah, I love it. Wow.
And this is a really interesting one too. Also a Seamaster. Look at those hour markers.
I know.
They're multifaceted.
Yes.
They're almost like gemstones.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just a steel marker.
Yeah, it does look like a gemstone. Yeah.
Right?
Looks like a pave chip.
Yeah.
A diamond chip.
What do you think about the patina on that one?
I like it. I like it especially with the strap, the color of the strap that this watch is wearing right now.
Yeah.
So for me, it definitely does. It looks great.
Right?
It looks great.
I mean, I can definitely see why this watch would turn people off. I get it.
Why? Because of the freckles?
Because of the patina. Yeah, and that watch was originally probably white or silver at best, probably white. So, I mean, I see people's point. Some people are like, oh, no, I want my watch to, be mint. And that's fine. I mean, I don't necessarily think that you're wrong. I just personally disagree.
It's not going to be for everyone.
No, it's not.
To me, this looks like a creme brulee.
Yeah.
You hit it with the little torch.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a
caramel
beautiful piece. Yeah. And actually, it's a manually wound watch, which surprised me, because a lot of these vintage Seamasters, they're automatics, especially when they have that particular case. Mm-hmm. But this one was originally and still till today a manually wound watch. Which for me, again, I'm a big watch geek. Whatever. I love manually wound watches. I think that it's cool to wake up in the morning and wind your watch. Like you're doing with the Panerai.
Yeah.
Right. Like you have to wind it.
Yeah.
And it, in a weird way, it makes you more connected to the watch.
Yes. Yes.
Like some people say, if you don't drive stick, you don't drive.
Yes.
Like
I feel that way.
Right. Well, yeah, but you're not like a stick snob.
No, I'm not. No. But I always feel really good when I'm driving a stick shift.
Right.
I feel like I'm more in touch with the road.
Right. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think that there's something to be said about even in a simple way, like winding a watch.
Yeah.
Operating a mechanic. Operating a mechanism.
Yes.
I think that's part of the charm about these vintage watches.
Yeah.
To finish off the Seamaster trio here, this is one that is very different than the prior two. This is a 1970s Omega Seamaster. What I think is so beautiful about it is that that champagne or gold frosted dial. I think it's beautiful. The markers.
The markers, yeah. Well, they're like two-tone markers or just this matte. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it looks like it's black, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it beautiful?
Oh yeah, and actually, look at that.
But there's that texture to the dial. You see the texture?
Sure, absolutely.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's oversized too. I think that's like a 37 millimeter.
This is probably the biggest one of the
100%.
four, right?
Yeah. Which for modern wrists is a big asset.
This probably great value, like a value watch.
For sure.
Right? Yeah.
That's why it kind of you joke. You say if you do what you love, you don't work it in your life. That's not true. I work all the time, and it sucks a lot of the time. But it's kind of cool when like all day, all I do is talk watches. And now although I'm still working, crack open a bottle of wine and to just handle these and to know the history you're handling and to know the significance of the brands and to try to get into the mindset of the people that said this is a good direction. How do we evolve the Seamaster? These are three different Seamasters, but three different total personalities,
right.
And still they all make sense as part of the larger character that is the Seamaster.
I'll give you an analogy, a wine analogy.
Yeah.
That's like having a great bottle of wine. I love, nothing makes me happier than to be able to share a great bottle of wine with someone dear to me, be a friend, family. And yet, not every bottle of wine, you can have the same manufacturer, right? The same William Sellem, for instance, we drink that. 2013 was different than 2014 and different than 11 and 12 and 9 and 8.
And the Zin is different than the Pinot.
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
But it's not that that one vintage was better than another.
Right.
And the older I get, the more I think about this. It's that they were just different.
Right.
It's what in this case, it's what nature provided, right? And this was the end product.
Right.
It's not worse than 2013.
No, it's
just different.
It's just different.
And you should enjoy them.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is that
basically that.
Right? In a different way, in a mechanical way.
Totally understood.
Yeah.
They're different. You know,
Right.
that's and
Right.
it's all about preference. That's why I love sitting down with someone that doesn't know exactly what they want. Right. When I
Right.
have a client meeting and sitting down with someone that's
Yes.
like, I'm really in love with Omega, but I don't know which way to go. Look at the variety here.
Right.
You know, it's an incredible brand.
Right.
Again, Rolex is probably my favorite brand. I
Yes.
love Rolex. But to say that Omega, it just demonstrated right here, isn't so dynamic and multifaceted is a lie. I mean,
Right.
this brand is so complicated, right? And their history is so rich, not just its significance to the world, in which it has plenty, right, but in the nuanced evolution of its design. You know, that's kind of what made me fall in love, you know, with the brand. You know, on top of the fact that, you know, that vintage Seamaster of Poppy's watch was one of the first watches I ever got to know and love.
You know, and I had the same growing up. It was for me. It was the same way too, because my father had his father's Omega, my grandfather's Omega,
Right. Yeah,
that he gave to his dad.
Yeah.
And it came back in 1973
Yeah.
when my grandfather passed away.
that
So I remember that red
watch.
box
Yeah.
with that Omega symbol
Yeah.
in steel or stainless steel,
Yeah.
whatever it was, and I always remember the name Omega, and
Yeah.
it stood for a lot. I didn't know if it was quality, but it meant there was a sentimentality
Right.
behind that brand.
Yeah, and that's funny. I think that's kind of one of the things I always say, relating back to my history with watches, is, you know, when you see other people treating something with real respect and admiration, even if you don't know what it is, you know it's got to be good,
Yeah.
right? Like when you opened up your Rolex and you were like, your breath was taken, you know, I didn't know what a Rolex was. I didn't know why it was
Right.
a good thing. I didn't know what it meant to you or the world, but I knew, like, whoa, like look at the way he's holding that.
Right.
You know, it must be important.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how I feel about Omega, especially for like average people.
Yeah.
Right? Like Omega was, and rightfully so, like the creme de la creme for, you know, put in with a reason, you know, the average working guy.
Yes.
Right? If you got that,
Yes.
that was a really cool thing.
It was a great thing to have.
You know, and now, I mean, Omegas are
yeah.
great, and they make
Yeah.
some great watches. But to me, modern Omega doesn't even come close to vintage Omega.
Yes, you've said that many times.
You know, and they're great. They're great.
Yeah.
They mechanically, they're very complex.
Yeah.
They've had wonderful evolutions. The coaxial escapement, so much.
But it's no longer a watch for the everyday guy. It's become,
No, it's not.
It's become now
It's Rolex.
a Yankees, you know, box seat. You know,
Right.
or it's
100%.
you can't take your family.
No.
You know, to a Yankees,
No, you
Yankee
can't.
Stadium. It's you know, for 4 people, and you know,
Yeah, you get-
and the average guy can't do that.
You get skinned
anymore.
alive.
You get skinned alive. So
Which
now
is-
Omega, I believe, is in that category.
Right, which to me loses so much of the charm.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I think it's cool that working guys like saved up and eventually got an Omega.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and now it's, I don't know, it's
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
I just feel like all watch brands in modern time now, they've lost a lot of that charm.
But you could recapture the past.
Exactly, which is so cool. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that's why sourcing, curating the watch shop is the one, and the videos is the one job at Theo and Harris that I really could not be separated from. I love sourcing these watches.
Yeah.
It's just fun. You literally never know what you're gonna see.
That's the love.
So that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Liquor Run. How's the wine, Daddy-O?
Pleasure meeting you, first of all.
How's the wine?
Delicious.
We have to have another glass. Wonderful manufacturer. If you guys want to know more about Sabate Kolka, the manufacturer of this Castelroy, watch last week's episode of Liquor Run. It was an amazing story and a wonderful trip.
Salud.
Salud.
Come on and do it, do it, do it. Come on and 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 do it, do it, do it. Come on and do it.